Hi there, everyone. Welcome to Pattern Breaks Facilitator Series, where I chat with a seasoned creative facilitator, and they'll take you through a pattern breaking technique for you to do in real time or when you have time. Thank you for joining us. And today I'm super excited to have our guest, William Hall. William is a seasoned applied improv leader and facilitator, consultant coach, and he's co founder of the Agility Group, known for their creative learning experiences. He was one of the founding member of the Bay Area Theater Sports Improv Theater and School of Improv in San Francisco. He's performed and taught improv all over the world. He's also an actor who's appeared in some feature films, and director, mask maker, storyteller, and I happen to know all around good guy. He's taught at Stanford's Graduate School of Business, worked with the New York Stock Exchange, Microsoft, American Express, Google, Sony, the list goes on. And he edited a book called The Playbook, Improv Games for Performers. Yay, great, which anyone can get. And I met William when we were both presenting. Oh, there. We were both presenting at the Applied Improv Network in 2006. I took his mask making workshop and really knew he was a master facilitator. And then we kind of become friends and colleagues ever since then. So love the nose and happy to have you. So William, let's
Michelle.
just start by asking you a question.
Yeah.
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 How did you first get into facilitating creative process? Because obviously you've been doing a lot of creativity.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't know. As a kid, I was part of camp programs and sort of became a camp counselor. And so you start this idea of like, oh, it's kind of fun to wrangle people and help get them organized to have their own fun. And I think that had a big influence. My dad was an Episcopal priest, and that sort of also helped. Um, but I think the in the professional world, it happened. Well, I started looking at where are the older actors? I started looking around and saying, where are my older actors? Where are my role models for how I get older in this business? And it's really hard to find them.
Yeah.
And when I did find them, they were all teachers. And I went,
Oh,
huh, that's interesting. I mean, not everyone can be Anthony Hopkins, God bless him.
yeah.
But and so I started looking at this other world of how to bring the world of improvisation out into the corporate world. Of course, at the same time, uh, here in San Francisco with Bats Improv, um, people started finding us and started asking us, what are you doing? How are you doing this? You're putting people on stage without a hierarchy and without a plan, and asking them to create a product that's worth money. Tell us how you do this. And of course, it was storytelling based too, so that really helped. And that's how it started. And then I started studying it in earnest. I started going like, where do I go? How do I become a trained facilitator? And I happened to be in Silicon Valley, so it really helped. And
Mm.
I got connected with a couple of academic communities and started working with Tiagi and Keith Johnstone and a bunch of other people who really helped teach me about how to get out of the way and let the creativity sort of facilitate their creativity.
Mm. I love that. Yeah, I think that is such a huge learning, right? As facilitators of creative process or improv performers, just how do you almost let yourself be created through in a way?
It's a real problem, Michelle, because as practitioners, we want them to see the value that we create.
Hmm.
So so we want to promote ourselves and what we bring, but if we do it right, it kind of looks like we haven't done very much in a way.
Yeah, if you're doing a good job facilitating, you're almost invisible. They'll leave the room thinking, look how creative I am, right? Not how creative the facilitator was. Yeah,
Right.
that's great. Love it. Well, I have one more question for you, one or two. You're an innovator and creator and original thinker, and I know you've probably made a lot of discoveries along your path. And I wondered, I know we don't have time to share all of them, but if you could think of one or two major learnings or discoveries you made related to your facilitation that might be helpful to somebody listening.
The key is with facilitation for me, and I know a lot of your a lot of people who might be watching this are professionals and already know this, but it just cannot be emphasized enough. I just keep learning this over and over again. We have to get them to talk. They have to close the gap. They've got to find it. It's not a TED talk where we're not telling them all this stuff. We got to create the conditions for them to sort of go, oh, hey, I discovered this. I think Keith Johnstone is famous for saying, if you tell your students that if they mix uh, the right colors together, they get a different color. Uh, but you could let them discover that. You could just let them discover it.
Yes.
And
Wow.
so most recently that shows up for me with this phrase when I'm in facilitation. Say more about that.
Hmm.
Say more. Say more about that. And just let them gu- gently guide them towards their own experience and their own conclusions about that experience.
It really is having that beginner mindset of not imposing what you think they mean or what you think about it, and letting them discover. You're holding space for them for their own self discovery.
There's so much power in repeating their words back to them and then pausing. And of course, when you repeat it back, you can repeat it back with slightly different shadings to sort of to test if it's this area or this area. And then, of course, the big learning is if you repeat back and they say, no, that's not it. That's a big win.
Yeah.
That's not a loss. That's a win. That's great. Let's talk about what it is.
Right. It gives them more information to refine what they're saying. They
Yeah.
get more clarity. They get that you're really genuinely trying to understand them.
It kind of feels like you're not doing anything. Like you should be
Mhm.
saying things like, what it sounds like you're having this issue with this, and maybe we should try that and be solutioning. And
Mm,
there's a lot of value for solutioning, and a lot of times we get hired for that. But most of the time, the learning sort of takes root if we can try a different kind of approach. It's so exciting.
I love that. I think you made such an amazing point in facilitating creative process, especially if you want people to make their own discoveries. It's like less is more. And your very simple, beautiful learning that you shared is less is more. It really helps the emergence come through.
Yeah. And those beginning moments when we're facilitating a group are about whether it's going to be you and them or whether it's going to be them with you sort of facilitating that conversation.
Thank you.
Yay.
Beautiful. I feel
Good
like I
talk
could
to you.
talk to you all day about this. Oh, I know we can't, we can go off, but uh, now it's time to offer our listeners a technique. So I'm going to pop on off here and I'll come back after you're done.
Great. Thanks. Michelle, this is great. And I really love your approach to this. We haven't talked about it. You don't know what I'm going to say. And there's part of me that says, I wonder whether this is what you're looking for, which is very exciting. I want to share with you an activity I often use in a lot of different facilitation, but mostly I use it when we're trying to explore innovation or creativity. And creativity can't happen with anxiety. If we're anxious about what we're doing, it destroys all sense of creativity. So what we're looking to do is lower the anxiety level and increase the sense of autonomy and agency and increase the sense of playfulness. Um, and so this activity, which was shared to me by Keith Johnstone and in his book Improv, is one that is really useful. I'm really excited to share it with you. Here's the idea: you break the group. This is how I do it. I break the group up into pairs. I'd have a big room. Might I have big sheets of paper on the wall? Everyone gets a marker. I use waterproof markers because it's the wall. Uh, and I say this is an activity where you're not talking, so there's no conversation. The talking you're going to be doing is body language and just being with each other. One person puts on the sheet of paper two little dots, two circles. And those are the eyes of a person. So you keep adding a line at a time until you reveal who those eyes belong to and what that person is doing. There's no conversation about it. You just go back and forth, back and forth. When it's over, so when do you know it's over? It's over when one person decides it's over. This is very exciting. Sometimes I say you can watch your pen sort of move towards the sheet of paper and then pause. that's an indication your body's not inspired to add anything. And that's fine. It's over. But the activity's not over. The drawing's over. So what you do then is you look for a little blank space on the paper and you start putting down a letter at a time. What are we doing there? We're looking for what the character's name is, maybe a line of dialogue, maybe something else. But you take turns adding a letter at a time until one of you decides it's finished. When this is over, I say, well, there's another sheet underneath of that. Take that off and do another one, do another one. When I do the debrief afterwards, and by the way, all activities are just an excuse for a debrief. When I do the debrief afterwards and I ask them things like, what did it feel like? And what was really going on there? They start talking about this sort of sense of discovery where they don't know where it's going, but they're trusting this process. They're also talking about the joy of watching it develop before their eyes. So often there's a lot of laughter in the room. I also allow some time for everyone to take a look at each other's because it's really fun. And the debrief can get really quite rich about what the creative process is like and how do we, when we're looking for innovation in our businesses, how do we suspend our sense of what it should be and what it could be and just and trust a process to see what might show up, which I think is at the heart of a lot of brainstorming and some of the design thinking work I've done. How do we just create the space and ask the question of what might show up? So this can also be done in a lot of different ways. Sometimes I do it with a big group around the table and you take one and you pass it along and pass it along. And once it gets finished, it goes into the middle and then you take a look at it. It's in the world of improvisation, it's a no blocking game. So no one's blocking. There's no argument for that line isn't right or what's that line. There's no question. The lines are what they are and they get to be interpreted by the next person who adds. It's a pretty beautiful game. And for some of the conferences I've worked with, they've taken pictures of the drawings and used them as part of the report out or the final document where they talk about the big the big takeaways from the meeting. They'll highlight this game because there's this beautiful creative artifact. It's also drawing, so it goes to a different part of our body. It's not language which we parse and argue with. So it's a beautiful, beautiful activity. You can find it in Keith Johnstone's Impro book, but you don't need to. Just experience it the way I tried it. Try it. Let me tell you, I've been doing this with my spouse of 37 years. Oh, thank you. 37 years, yeah. So every day we put a little to-do list on our kitchen counter to help us, get things done. And then we do this. And so we've created a book of them. So let me just open randomly to a page. So these are some of the drawings that we created randomly. And we do that every day. We're doing one today. Well, I'm telling you, we do it every day. And the things that show up are surprising and delightful and also feels creative. There you are, Michelle. There's my activity. How was that?
Oh, awesome. It was wonderful. I absolutely love your takes on it. And what a surprise twist too at the ending on bringing out your personal book on it. I love that. And I also love how you offered people to, check it out in Keith's book or go ahead and make it their own, because that's one of the things that I like to focus on a lot throughout the book, my book, is take these things, use them as idea prompts and make them your own. And you did that. You could talk to 20 people learning the same activity, and they each will facilitate it different, and not only facilitate it different, but debrief it different. Thank you. That was great.
Can I give you an added tip about this particular
Yeah.
activity? When I'm selling my workshops, I'll often do this with a qualified buyer. And I'll go, let's stand up at the whiteboard and say, let's do this. I'll tell you one of the things that we might do. And it is remarkably powerful in that moment because then they experience what it is like to be creative and the challenges that are the stories that are going inside their heads, like, oh, I can't draw, I'm not this and this. And then they see what's happened and they go, well, I didn't create that. You didn't create that. That's us. And it happens in the moment. It's beautiful.
Yeah, that is beautiful, and it's a great reminder that um, your facilitation actually starts from the first conversation, not from only at when you walk into the room. And I love it. I love that you already do that in the meeting, even whether you have the project yet or not. So thank you so much for that sharing. That was, you shared it beautifully and it was a great learning. And can you tell people how they can reach you or and reach your book?
Yeah, please find me on LinkedIn. I'm finding that that's a pretty useful way to stay in touch. It's
Okay.
also a pretty good fun way to connect business wise. You can take a look at some of the other improv games that I offer for facilitation like this on improvgames.com, and definitely check out the agilitygroup.net and check us out.
Yes, definitely do that. And thank you so much, William. And for anyone listening who would like some more pattern breaking ideas and techniques, I just released my new book, Pattern Breaks, The Facilitator's Guide to Cultivating Creativity, where I share principles, practices, processes for facilitating creativity and also cultivating more of your own creativity as a facilitator. And that is at pattern. Ah, thank you. That is at patternbreaks.com, or you could find it on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and other online resellers. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. Thanks again, William.
It's a pleasure, Michelle. You're doing great work.